Hello, everyone. Welcome back to No Filter Necessary with your host, Charles Malaga. I am so excited for this episode because my grandparents are in town, as you can see. And I thought it would be fun and interesting to do a interview with my grandpa Poppy over here. Welcome to No Filter Necessary.
Uh, Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, so today I wanted to kind of introduce yourself, where are you from, little things like that, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
So introduce yourself.
Sorry.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, Calvin Haddad, also known as Poppy. That's me.
And where are you from?
I'm from
How many siblings do you have?
Brooklyn,
Something like
New
that?
York City, via Brooklyn, and now Florida.
Anything else you'd like the viewers to know about you?
As to where I'm from,
Anything.
oh, uh, well, you ask the questions, and I'll answer the questions because
Got it.
I have many decades behind me, so you're the one that's going to have to shorten this.
Okay, got it. So how many siblings do you have?
Two. I have an older sister and a younger sister.
And you grew up in Brooklyn?
Yes, I did.
And did you live there your whole life? For
Until
most of your life?
no, until I was about going to say about the early 20s, and then moved to Manhattan, and that's where I've been until we went to Florida.
Were your siblings with you the whole time?
A whole time when,
Did they
please.
live the whole time? Like,
No,
were you guys always
my older
together?
sister got married and moved out of town. She moved to New Orleans, and my younger sister and I grew up together.
Okay. And then when did you have your first children? You were in Brooklyn?
No, in Manhattan. Moved to Manhattan, then got married, and that's when my first daughter came along.
And when was that? What year was that?
1972.
1972. And then your second daughter?
In 1974.
1974, 2 years ago. 2 years later. And then after that, you remarried and had two more daughters.
Yes.
Or not had two more daughters, but
Eventually,
gained two more daughters.
I remarried, and Babette had two daughters, and voila, we had four daughters.
And then
And
and a son.
sorry,
And a son.
and as well, subsequently, we also had a son together.
Amazing. So great introduction. Thank you so much. So how old are you, Poppy? Tell the viewers.
Must I admit it?
Yes, I know you guys will be surprised.
80 years old.
80 years old. And when did you turn 80?
Last March.
Last March. Okay, and it's 2024 right now. When were you born? What
The,
year?
the year 1943.
1943. And wait, okay, so what sign are you? I don't even know what sign that is.
What? Aries. You mean
Aries.
Aries? Yeah.
Do you know anything about Aries? I don't know anything about signs. I just
Well,
know that I'm a
the
Scorpio.
Aries is a ram,
A ram.
yeah, which means, as the song said, keep butting your head against the dam, and that's an Aries.
Okay. Can you explain butting your head against the dam?
You keep going until a lot of times until you realize I shouldn't be doing this.
Okay. You can look at me too, by the way, Poppy, while you're talking.
Sorry.
You can look at me too.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you can get comfortable.
I'm completely comfortable.
I'm glad. All right. So, you're a father, you're a husband, you're an entrepreneur. You're still working at 80,
You
no?
forgot grandfather.
Grandfather, correct.
Yeah.
Most important role, right?
That no question about that.
How many grandchildren do you have? Wait, let's start there. How many grandchildren do you have?
10.
10 grandchildren. And how old is your youngest?
I believe 5. She's 5.
Putting him on the spot right now. 6. We're getting
Oh, 6.
sidelines.
Sorry, sorry, not sorry. I'm a little behind the curve. 6.
6 years old. And how old is your oldest? My sister,
22.
22. Oh my God. Okay,
Big, big
such a
spread.
huge gap, right?
Big age spread. Sorry.
But you have a relationship with everybody.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Some obviously closer than others because of proximity.
Yeah, of course. Everybody lives in different states.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, everyone's spread out. But also, I feel like some of us are older, so we have more time with you, experience with you, more
And I'm glad to say you're
moments.
my eldest grandson.
True. True that. Can't argue that point. I wanted to talk about some pop culture, you know, in
Uh, Good luck.
yeah, some pop culture, but I want to start with not only like what's happening today, but I want to start off with things that happened when you were younger. Like what was at my age, like in your 20s, what was what was happening? Like what
Let's
was pop
see.
culture? What was in the news? What was
Let's
the
see.
biggest thing of that
At
decade?
that time, I think at that age, we were right in the midst of Vietnam, the Vietnam War.
The
And that was
Vietnam
the
War.
that unfortunately that was the big event of the times.
Oh, okay. And nothing else happened that whole
No,
decade?
no, no. Plenty happened. That was a few years after President Kennedy was assassinated, and the supposedly the early '60s, first 5 years of that decade, was supposed to be very, very laid back, if you would, old fashioned and so forth, which I don't see now with what I just said. And then, of course, the '60s became totally different in the last 5 years.
Were there any celebrities back then other than the president?
Oh, always with celebrities. As a matter of fact, I still look toward them as still being celebrities. I don't
And
know, very frankly, much of what's going on in this day and age.
can you name a few of your celebrities from when you were my age? Like who are the icons?
I would say Cary Grant. I would say Humphrey Bogart, who was one of my favorites.
Who was Humphrey Bogart?
Humphrey Bogart. You must see Casablanca. Well,
That's all you're gonna tell me
no,
about him?
no. Again, he was an
Also, the
actor for.
camera's right there,
He
just
was
letting
an
you know,
actor.
the black.
Sorry.
Just letting you know you've been looking down the whole time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. I was around for a long time and had a long career. And I always thought that admired him.
But was he an actor or what?
You know, an actor, absolutely.
Oh,
He
and he
was
was in Casablanca.
he was in Casa. Well, that's the highlight to me. There were many others, many other movies.
That was his best movie for you?
I think so. I think that was one of the, if not the best, one of the best movies of all time.
Oh, damn.
I've only seen it
That's a
about.
high ranking. A
I've
lot of
only
years
I've
you've been
only seen
alive.
it 20 sometimes.
Okay. Got it. I love my grandma's back here with my grandmother's here on the sidelines writing notes, like what are those called? Signs of topics that we're forgetting. So she wants you to bring up Nixon. Let's talk about Nixon.
Okay, well, my pleasure to talk about Nixon.
Okay,
Okay,
what are your
what
thoughts?
do you want to know?
What are your thoughts?
I think since World War II, he was our best president. And I know I get controversy no matter when I mention that, but that's the way I feel.
Why do you feel this way?
Because he accomplished a lot. He
Hmm.
accomplished an awful lot. And I think he gets a bad rap in many ways. Like,
Hmm.
I guess, like everyone else.
Yeah. Different times back then,
No, no question
for
about it.
sure.
No question about it. Uh, he got us out of the Vietnam War.
Mm,
He's not given any credit for doing that, and that's just one of the examples.
got it. Are you passionate about that?
Yeah, yeah. To be very honest with you, we lived through. My generation lived through that time, and it was very tumultuous. And that's fortunately, it's in the history books.
Yeah. But now we have so much going on today.
No
It's
question,
crazy.
no question about it.
But we're not going to get into that one. All right. So tell us more about working at 80 years old and maybe some of your best times, growing up working. I know you worked with your father a lot. in the family
Yeah,
business,
yeah.
and tell me a little bit about that.
Well, started working fairly early, and
How old
again,
were you?
we started 12, 13 years old after school, summers, etc. And it was interesting because I never wanted to do what my father did. And as time evolved, and then in working with him, I think I'm very lucky to have done what I did because I loved what I was doing.
And when did you start? You said, sorry, what age was it?
Right after, full time, right after college. I
Right after
was
college.
21, I think 21 years old.
Okay. And how old were you when your dad passed?
Oh, that was 1988. I was 43 years old.
And okay, you were 43. And how old was your dad when he stopped working?
He never
Or did he
stopped.
wo-
He never
did he
stopped
work
working. He never
until?
stopped working.
Oh, okay. Is that where you get it from?
I guess.
Is that what you would say?
I guess so. I guess so.
Was your dad a big inspiration for you growing up?
Didn't realize it at the time. He was the smartest man in my recollection. Now it's 80 years. Smartest man I ever met
What makes you say that?
because he was.
He taught you a lot.
I remember uh, one of the people that was working in the business indicated, and he loved my father. He idolized my father, and he said that man has the ability to see around corners, literally around corners. So,
He was insightful.
yeah, very much so, very very much so. You know, a lot of what he said at the time uh, came from at least one, maybe one and a half generations away. But as I got older, I realized the what can I say? The wisdom of things that he told me over time, particularly after he passed away.
So, what is one of the biggest lessons you learned working with your father?
Again, patience and tolerance. And hopefully, I think beyond what's in front of your nose, consequences and so forth.
So, where did you go to college in Brooklyn?
Brooklyn College, yeah.
Brooklyn College, shout out. Did they have a lot of spirit? Were they like a spirited school?
Yeah. There was a hotbed of, frankly, socialists. So that was a fun time. That really was a fun time.
Love. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
May I tell you a little short story
please,
about that?
please.
I joined the group called the Young Republicans at that time in the college, and we had Young Democrats. Well, I would say the Young Democrats and various political hues, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of members. And I believe that the Young Republicans, we were six.
Si-
So that gives you a little background of exactly uh, the, Brooklyn College.
That's funny. I love that. So after you graduated college, you started working with your father, and what did you guys do?
Uh,
What did your father do?
he had two businesses over the years. They were in the real estate business, which was accumulated from the wholesale and retail businesses that they operated over the years. And those two businesses were maintained. Um, and that's in growing up, that's what the company was. It was those two areas.
And you traveled a lot for that, right?
Well, within a few years thereafter, because a lot of our business was international, I traveled a lot and spent a great deal of time in the Far East, which is primarily the basis of our business.
Oh my God, how was that?
Sorry?
How was that? Tell us more about the Far East.
Intimidating at the beginning, but learned an
We're in the
awful
Far
lot.
East mostly.
Huh? I'm sorry?
Sorry, we're in the Far East to start off.
Where?
Yeah, like mostly did you
Well,
guys
I
go?
can't say most because we were in about 10 different countries.
Oh,
But it was
damn.
at the beginning, primarily, it was Japan, and then it evolved into Korea, and Hong Kong, and Korea. And ultimately, at last count, something like 10 countries.
10 countries.
Hmm.
Okay, and
Yeah.
continue.
Sorry.
And continue about the Far East.
Very interesting. I learned a different way of thinking, an appreciation for uh, people with a different background, different culture, and you did business that way accordingly. And I learned to do business according to the way business was done in the Orient. And
How old were you when this was happening?
oh, in my mid 20s, I would say, maybe mid to latter 20s.
So you were young, having a lot of
Oh yeah,
experience.
oh yeah, yeah. And then we branched. We were in other parts of the world too, so it was constant. It really was constant, but and very intense. Learned an awful lot.
Wait, so how was your relationship with your dad traveling so much and being with him? I'm assuming like almost 24/7, no?
Well, he was a very strong individual, and at one particular point, after I started traveling, he insisted that he was going to. We were both going to do this. We were going to travel together on this particular trip. We did that, I think, twice. It
Oh,
was
so you usually didn't travel together.
no, not at all, not at
Oh,
all. I was always, always a lone wolf. I mean, I went to many countries, and that we hadn't been in before, and you, uh, you learn about the country. It was very interesting. It was to enter a new country, a new business, and so forth from scratch. That's why I keep saying I learned a lot. Learned an awful lot. Matter of
mm,
fact, that we opened the offices, our own offices in Korea and in Hong Kong, and ultimately in Hong Kong. And the chap that was a colleague of mine in Hong Kong. I practically grew up with. He had worked for one of the companies doing business with my father well before I ever even knew anything about the business. And we still communicate back and forth with each other. And I hope soon we're supposed to be making a trip to the Orient, and I hope to see him. He's exactly my age, so we got to get to see each other again. My wife Babs joined me on a couple of these trips, and so in some of was very hard work. It was intense. It was 7 days a week. It was long days and so forth. You could be doing this for 5 and 6 and 7 weeks at a time, and we had a lot of fun. Particularly the first time we went to mainland China, and the three of us went there, and it's really an experience, really, really an experience. And I I look back at it now. We had a lot of fun. We really did.
wait, give me a story from there.
Uh, it's difficult. Uh, his name is Joe Lee, and Joe is a character. And at one point, we were in, I believe it was Thailand, and that day everything was closed, and we were at a very lovely hotel, and they had a magnificent. It looked like twice the size of an Olympic swimming pool. Very few people there, and the, we were in the swimming pool, and we were all. He was nose to nose with myself and Babs. It was three people in the swimming pool. We laughed. I said, I know we like to be close, but this is ridiculous." I said there were just three of us, and it's fine. We talked about it recently, and it's very funny. That's why I look to see him again, and I want to, chat about those days.
That's fun. So what it was like an in what was it? Where was this pool?
In Bangkok, in
But like at
Thailand.
the hotel or just
Yeah,
like
yeah, at the hotel.
oh,
And it was magnificent. It happened to be, basically, it was a resort hotel, and which again was a luxury. I didn't generally. I was not generally in an atmosphere like that working, but we did this when Babs was there. We took advantage of it, and again, I think back now, I'm smiling now. We had a lot of fun.
I love that. Well, I have a little thing that I want to do. I thought we would do a rapid fire pop culture question
Oh, you
air.
mentioned that before. I
Yeah.
can't wait.
Pop culture versus grandpa. Okay. So,
How long is this? How long is this podcast? I said, because if we get into that, we might be here until next Thursday. If I may, I'm
wait,
glad.
they can't hear
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. I'm glad you jogged my memory because I hadn't thought about some of the things I just talked about when the having a great time and the fun mixed in with the hard work and so on. So I just hadn't had the occasion to talk about that in a long time. It's a lot of fun.
Tell us another story. Like, come on.
There are a lot of them. Oh well, uh, the people there being very deferential. When I would stand up, they would stand up. When I would sit down, they would sit down. And I can embellish this with stories that I really can't think about the details right now. But that's what it was. It was just totally different from growing up in the West. Just totally different.
Yeah. So they had a lot of respect for you
I don't know that. I think it was more. I think it was more habit and culture than anything else. That was their
because you were a guest.
no. Yeah, but that was that way. Their way of being deferential. You talk about pop culture and so forth. That's why the difference between the philosophy there, the East, and the philosophy West. It was a very interesting thing that I was told when I was there, and this is people that I had done business with for years, and they would bring juniors who were learning the business and so forth, and one of the younger guys was less cautious with some of the things that he said, as opposed to being politically correct, if you would, with the big buyer from the West. Uh, and he mentioned to me, he said, Mr. Haddad, he said, you are Chinese man with white face. And his senior blanched and almost died and apologized to me for allegedly the insult that was given to me. And I told them that was the exact opposite. I felt that was the biggest compliment that I could ever get to enculturate myself that way. And it was interesting because the inscrutable Orient, that's the way, that's, the description is great. You can't read the mind there, not unless you grow up there. And that's what I did. I grew up there, and the mentality is different, and it's a phenomenal lesson, a life lesson.
So let's move in to the pop culture questionnaire Q&A. Rapid fire.
I hope
First
I hope
question.
not too rapid.
Not too rapid. Not too rapid. Okay. So starting off strong. I can't believe. Okay. Do you know what grinder is?
What? Which, please?
Do you know what grinder is?
I remember my son Maxwell mentioned it had, uh, at, and the context that he used it was a type of movie atmosphere. Uh, that, as I remember it, but maybe totally off base.
Okay.
May I ask the meaning of grinder?
So grinder is definitely not a movie platform whatsoever. Grinder is it's a dating app for gay people.
Oh no no oh no no I did. Thank you. It's a lesson learned. I'm
Yeah.
totally unfamiliar with the name.
Yeah. So it's an app that it's a dating app, but a lot of people like in the gay community know it as it's more of like a hookup app. Like no one's on there to date, you know? But like everyone can see each other's location and everything. What's your opinion on that? They're just on the app to like hook up.
And
And all of their pictures, like most people's pictures are like shirtless or like all of that stuff. What's your opinion?
it it's very foreign to me, obviously, and so. But in this day and age, many things many things that I'm aware of and accept as everyday occurrences have changed, and it if that's what that satisfies the people that utilize it, more power to them.
Yeah. Would you use Grinder if you were gay?
I never thought about it, but maybe, maybe, maybe. I got enough trouble being what I'm supposed to be.
Got it. Okay, moving right along. Um,
By the way, that's as pop culture. That's that's a very auspicious start.
what's auspicious mean?
Uh, a very important, auspicious,
Important. I think
overwhelmingly important.
overwhelmingly important. I think Grinder's overwhelmingly important for sure.
No, no question about it. Whoever coined that term.
They went public on the stock market like
Are
last
you
year.
serious?
Yeah,
I missed out on another. I
they
missed
did.
out on another one.
Yep, they did. They had like
Why
pride
didn't you?
flags and
Why
everything at the
didn't you
stock
tell me
exchange.
about this before it went public?
I don't know. I just thought about it. I thought it'd be a great topic to bring up.
All right.
And I didn't know that you've heard of it, but you've heard
No,
of it in
I've
a
heard
movie
there are
way,
sites
which
like that, but I was unfamiliar with the name. But I
yeah.
am disappointed
But
in you.
most sites are like dating apps. This
Hmm.
site is like specifically yeah, to
It's a
hook
good
up.
name. It's a good name.
Yeah, like grinder,
Hmm.
grinding. Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay, so I loved your thoughts on Grinder. Um,
I must tell you, I can't wait for the next pop culture question.
got it. So, next pop culture question. We know you're a fashion icon. Um, if you guys were to be able to see his closet, this is a real fashion icon right here. Um,
And
and
I think it was passed along, very frankly, to you as well.
yes, I mean, that's exactly where I got it from. How do you know? So, how would you describe your style, first of all? Give us like 3 words.
Iconoclast,
What? Iconoclast?
iconoclast,
What does that mean? Icon?
somebody who's counter to what's
This is like a vocab
common,
class today.
what's common. Somebody who doesn't necessarily accept
Social norms,
no, what society accepts.
societal norms.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. And what's your 2 other words to describe it?
I guess that certain people that know me would say curmudgeon, which is
Curmudgeon.
an old biddy. But no, that's interesting. The other two, and maybe if I can think about it a
I feel
little
like
bit.
sophisticated.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would hope. Thank you very much. That to me was always very important. It's a commodity that
I feel
I
like
don't know if it exists anymore, or certainly it exists in a very limited way. The person is sophisticated, cultured, mannered. It's
not a
less.
lot of cultured people
No,
these
they're not.
days.
And mannered. Things have changed. Things have changed, and certain things I'll never accept, and that's one of them. In
Yeah.
terms of, and a gentleman. I never wanted to be anything else but a gentleman. And it's an interesting term, and that's why I said that's why I love the old movies because there's a semblance of that. Not a semblance. Is a lot of that in the
In the vaudeville days.
1940s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. Not in the 50s already was slanting a little bit. Yeah, always wanted to, always wanted to be classified as a gentleman.
Yeah. So, okay. And I feel like obviously I wasn't alive when you were working and hustling, but I feel like you were a man to always wear a suit, like no matter where you
I'm
were.
sorry to rewind.
Wear a suit.
I
Were you
still
always
still
wearing
do
a
that
suit?
till this day. Most
But
people.
I was gonna follow up right now. I feel like you got more casual as you've gotten a little bit older, right?
About a little bit,
Just a little bit.
to accommodate it because again, but when I go to the office, when I attend certain things, when we go out, I still wear a suit and a tie,
Of course,
or
yeah.
tie and a jacket, and
Right.
again, it's to use the terminology is not de rigueur anymore. So if you're tieless, etc., and that everybody congratulates me for being in the modern world. So yes, I don't pay much attention to it anymore.
Yeah. But I feel like today you're serving us street style looks. Like this. Would you wear this to New York Fashion Week?
I'm sorry.
Would you wear this outfit to New York Fashion Week, like a street style moment?
Not particularly. If we were looking, you use grinder. If we're going to a grunge place, if I were
A
going to
gr-
a grunge place, then I could agree with you. But
What's
a
grunge?
grunge, where an outfit like this belongs.
Got it. So what would you wear to New York Fashion Week? We're like getting off topic, but I want to know.
With what? I'm sorry.
What would you wear at New York Fashion Week? Like what would you wear to a show, a runway show?
I would wear a suit, a tie, and look the way I think a gentleman should look.
Period. Tell him. Okay. So that brings me to my rapid fire question. That's not been so rapid. If you could swap closets with any celebrity, who would it be and why?
Cary Grant.
Cary Grant.
He had the reputation. One of the things that he insisted on was the fact that he pick out his own clothes in every one of the parts that he had that he was appeared in, and the studio would graciously say, "Anything you buy is yours," and he insisted on that because he had to look just so, and it's so counter to what's common today. So that, and no question about him being a fashion icon. There are a few others, but he stands out in my mind. We used to have one in a generation and a half, 2 generations ago, one of the categories, if you would, internationally, was the best dressed man, best dressed woman, and there would be numbers 1 through 10 in the entire world. Who was accorded number 1 through number 10? And that was, I mean, certainly, certainly that that's why I said my mentality is such. And that used to be, and people used to vie for what number they would come up on that. But women as well as men. Certainly women probably even more so.
Yeah. And who would be a person that you can think of today, a celebrity today of my day that you would swap closets with?
I really can't think of anybody. Offhand, I can't think of anybody. I wouldn't say
You wouldn't switch with Nicki Minaj?
who.
Nicki Minaj? Nicki Minaj?
No,
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 not your style.
no, no. She's quite an entertainer, but I wouldn't. Don't think I want to swap clothes with her.
What about Taylor Swift?
Well, it's hard. I mean, you're talking about a gender difference. So anyway, and she's supposed to have great qualities. Great. So if you talk about, would you like to be a person like that? Absolutely. Uh, in the fashion context,
You
I
don't really
can't see
know.
the connection.
Yeah. What about Travis Kelce?
No. As a matter of fact, he's probably an example of exactly what I don't want to be in this day and age. He's this day and age particularly. He looks like a nice guy and so forth. No,
But his outfits, no.
I wouldn't want to dress like him. I wouldn't want to look like him. I mean, he's a big guy and so forth, handsome man and so forth. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, no. Got
I'm,
it. We
I'm
don't.
unimpressed. I'm unimpressed at best.
We are unimpressed with Travis Kelce. Got it.
Sorry.
I said we're unimpressed. I'm loving it. I think the internet's kind of unimpressed with Travis Kelce. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really a
No, I've
Swiftie.
said that.
Are you a Swiftie?
What is it? What the
A Swiftie is
tail?
what they call like what Taylor calls her
Well, I didn't know.
fans.
I didn't know very much about her, and I know that she just went on this international tour. And Maxwell, my son, who tells me how behind the times I am, he had indicated to me that one of the things she did, it was such a huge success that she put a pool of money together for anybody that was working with her, the musicians, the producers, etc., and a pool in thanks for what they did for
For
her.
all the
And
all the
exactly,
employees of the
exactly.
tour.
And I mean that is not a usual type person. So she's got to be. And my understanding, I don't know very much about her, but my understanding is that she's got very good values. She's obviously raised the right way, but she's got very good values. So yeah, the more I'm hearing about her, the more I learn about her. I think that I'm usually very unimpressed with anything any entertainer and so forth in this day and age. But the more I see her,
But
I'm
Taylor
very
Swift
very
got you.
impressed based on an individual who seems to be that way and reputationally is accorded that.
Reputationally, no pun intended, because I think one of her albums called
Is
Reputation.
it really?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Maybe I'm catching up.
Yeah. Go tell Maxwell right
Maybe,
now.
maybe.
Must be it. So, now that we're talking about Taylor Swift, honestly, would you rather be? I feel like these two people compete, like in terms of like the biggest artists in the world, like the biggest fans, Beyonce and Taylor Swift. Would you rather be part of Beyonce's what do they call it?
Entourage.
Entourage. Would you rather be part of Beyonce's entourage or Taylor's entourage?
Well, again, not knowing very much about Beyonce, uh, we have a lot of fun with that name, but very exotic. But I know more about Taylor Swift, so I would tell you, yeah, I'm more familiar with her, and everything that I said already, I don't
You
have
want to
to.
get paid after the tour,
I'm
so
sorry,
you want to get paid after the tour.
I don't follow the question.
You said she paid her whole entourage after the tour, so you'd rather be with Taylor Swift so you can get
No,
that check at the end of it.
no question. I mean, not only it's a to me, it's such a rarity. It's a pleasure to be around people like that. I mean,
Yeah,
what more do you want than somebody who's such a success and just
gives back.
spreads the largesse out?
Yeah. I saw that she brought like, I think it was, I don't know if it was 100 and something employees or 100 and something trucks, like, like
Not
four
some
wheelers,
phenomenal number. I mean,
something like that
these are the
on
things
tour.
these are the things that I was told. I don't read, I'm
Yeah.
not interested in reading up on them and so forth.
Me neither, honestly. I'm not a big Swiftie. Like, I'm not a hater, but I'm not a fan. Like, I don't go to Spotify and press play on Taylor Swift. She's not my biggest artist,
I
but
have to. I make an admission to you that when I get into my car or I'm in my house,
you turn Taylor
I'm
Swift
not
on.
playing my own CDs, uh, I'm on a. It's rare. There aren't many left. Classical. My first love in music is classical music. So I mean, you see how far afield I am from what goes on today.
Yeah. I remember when I was younger and we were in the car and I would always get in the Jeep on the way to school and you were always playing classical music and
And now, in
I
deference,
would
in this day and age, in deference to you and my grandchildren, and in all due respect, my wife and so forth, I changed the station to whatever they like, which is fine. It's fine.
yeah,
I don't most of it I don't dislike unless it's shrill. But
Peter
that's
Pluto.
my preference is what it is. But rather than do that, I'm in a minority, so I'd rather everybody feel comfortable.
That's
That's
nice. That's a beautiful
yeah.
thing. And give us
That's part of being it to me. That's part of being a gentleman. It's very I I don't know very many people that I know that and I'm not here to tout myself, but the bottom line is that's part of being a gentleman is the ability to please other people. as opposed to pleasing yourself. And I'm the exact opposite of an egotist. And to me, yeah, that's a good word. I'll tell you why. I think this day and age, we live in a egotistic society.
Yeah.
Generally, not everybody, but generally.
Do you think do you think it's egotistic or materialistic or
Well,
both?
I mean, they're
Or,
two different things. They're
mm,
really two different things.
yeah.
But the answer is, yeah, both of them apply.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think materialistic would
I
be
think
any different than historically.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think so.
Okay. Got it. So at the end of the day, would rather be on Taylor Swift's
Yeah, no question
entourage.
about it. I have to tell you, I think in very recent times, I mean, very recent times, I've had a change of mentality. My mentality has changed. I don't, a lot of what the things I think and the way I dealt with other people and so forth. I probably never gave it much thought over time, but I've changed that in my, as opposed to past. It's an interesting fact. I don't know what brought the metamorphosis, but yeah, I don't want to relive the past. I don't want to relive the past. I'm looking to the future.
And that's why you want to be with Taylor Swift?
That's why I mean that.
I'm so confused
No,
right
no,
now.
no. Why mentally? No, the same mentality. It's the mentality. I wouldn't even be thinking in these terms. I said, "Who is that?" and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But I,
But you like her as a person, so you'd rather be behind
I
her.
was, I've always been a very tough critic on myself. Um, very frankly, some people say have an inferiority complex. Not inferiority complex. I fit in like everybody else, and I'm not. I'm the exact opposite of an egotist. But I feel like with people that have been around me and so forth, that I wasted a lot of years. And I'm at 80 years old. I'm not wasting any more years.
On people. Like wasting your time on
Particularly with
people.
people that I love. Particularly with people, but people generally. I would say people generally.
No, just to clarify though, you're saying in people generally you rather not give them the time of day
No,
because
no, 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 no,
oh,
not at all, not at
wait,
all.
you're saying the
More
opposite.
tolerant of it. I take
Oh,
it with a grain of salt. And if I were to have conversations with people, discussions with people, and of things that interest me, and I like to think more depth to my thinking than the average, but relative to that. Oh, well, I'm losing a train of thought. I'm sorry.
you're good. We talked about that enough. We can move on to the next rapid question.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So, wait, what
This
did
is
I have?
very good. I must tell you, I thank you. This is very cathartic.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm like a therapist.
Yep, that precisely. Really.
Yeah. I feel like I could be a therapist if I could be in school for that long. Yeah.
Well, you've got a brilliant future if you
Or a
do that.
lawyer, honestly. I also could say that. Like,
Well, you could
I
be a
want to
law.
be Harvey
You could
Specter.
be a you could be a lawyer, and you could do this. You don't want to be spend your life in the wrong business, Charles.
That's true. But also, law school is like a lot of years. It's like what,
Everything,
5 more years?
Charles, everything takes time.
Time, yeah.
Everything takes time.
But some things
Just
take shorter.
equate it with you love coffee, you love tea. Just because you want it right now, you got to wait for it to brew and become coffee and become tea. Everything comes in time.
Great metaphor for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So you would swap closets with what's his name?
Cary
We
Grant.
Cary Grant. We talked about that. Okay.
Did you ever see any movies with Cary Grant?
No,
Oh, that's okay.
no, I
I
haven't. To
knowing
be
you,
honest.
knowing you in the fashion sense, and so forth. I said,
I'm gonna have to
very
research him
frankly, if you
after.
did, I think you'd really appreciate the man.
I'm gonna research him after. I want to see him, look him up. Um, Wait. So also, have you been hearing what's been happening in Alabama?
Yeah, yeah.
I know we talked about it for like a
We chatted
second last
about it
night,
shortly. Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah.
So
You know what's interesting? It's
wait,
Alabama.
let's explain what's happening right now before we
Please
get into
go
it.
ahead.
So right now, there was a court case. It all started with a court case. This couple was in the middle of IVF, in the middle of their process. And I don't know the specifics, but I guess they lost it or something happened with the eggs, the frozen eggs. And they couldn't retrieve them. Something happened. What? No, but it's so no, that's not why. No, that's not why. It all started with they sued because they lost their eggs or something happened with their eggs and they were like, "Oh, that's killing
Oh,
children."
I'm glad you're telling that because I'm
Yeah.
unaware of the
So
details.
so what happened, it all started, just researched it before. It all started with one court case in Alabama. There was a couple and they were in the middle of their IVF treatments. And I don't know the specific if they lost the frozen eggs or if they dropped, like, I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know if you can drop them, like, whatever happened.
Hmm.
And so they didn't have them, they couldn't continue it. And they were suing them for
What, suing the facility?
yes. No, so they were suing them. This is what happened. So they were suing them. Whatever, they went to court with it. Don't ask me specifics. I wasn't there. I didn't read everything, but they went to court on it and they killed the eggs basically. They couldn't continue the IVF. And the argument was is that they were killing babies. Like those were babies that they're killing. The frozen eggs are alive, I guess.
So what
So
was
now
the issue?
the judge was arguing that that goes against their child act, something like
Hmm.
that they have for abortion.
So it was a crime,
So
supposedly a
yeah, so they're
crime. Yeah.
trying to argue that it was a crime that they killed children, that this facility killed children, and since this situation happened, multiple IVF centers have shut down or closed temporarily, whatever, in Alabama. And there have been cases that people come forward that they said they were in the middle of their IVF treatment,
Hmm.
which is one of the most
May, may,
time.
may I interject to ask a question? My understanding from the bits and pieces, and I was unaware of a lot of these details, is that even in Alabama, it's not uniform that people feel that way. That
Yes.
a lot of people have taken the opposite tack, even in Alabama.
Yeah, I was
That's
actually
my understanding.
no, I was actually getting there. So they were saying that the lawmakers, whoever they were making the argument that it went against this Child Act. They shut down, and then cases came through that they were in the middle of their IVF treatment
Hmm.
and they couldn't finish it because it's a very time sensitive. Like you have a certain window to inject this, do that, whatever, and they couldn't continue it. So now there are more cases that have stopped because they said these frozen eggs are children, which is obviously ridiculous. And but yes, you are right. A lot of Alabama and even the the general attorney, not general attorney,
Attorney General?
attorney general
Hmm.
of Alabama has said that he does not plan to prosecute any couples that have done IVF. So
Is
yeah,
it done IVF or why did the
now they're saying IVF in general is like should be illegal because IVF should be illegal because these things could happen and those are children that they're playing with.
so that there's supposedly the destroyed eggs were done by accident? Is that it?
Yes, allegedly. This
Mm.
is all alleged, so we don't get sued. But yeah, yeah. So, but anyway, so yes, you're right. A lot of people have spoken up, even lawmakers in Alabama, saying that's ridiculous and it's needed for many couples. Which obviously,
Well,
yeah.
that's what we
So
were talking about. As things are going along, certain things are positive, and certain things have gotten to me just out of hand. Because next Tuesday, today right now is today is Saturday. Today is Sunday. I'm sorry.
No, today's Saturday.
Oh, it is Saturday.
We thought yesterday was Saturday.
I lost track myself. But I'm going to say by next Tuesday, there'll be another issue superimposed on top of abortion, and now it's IVF, and who knows what comes next. There's no end to this. There's absolutely, I don't know what the, God knows. I don't think anybody knows what the answer is.
Yeah, I agree.
What
I think it's
comes
just
next?
I think it's just interesting to see that there are no women making any of these decisions. It's always a man coming up with these, like these abortion things.
Well,
I think
we
it's
live in this. Mother Nature has created two genders, and the bottom line of it is the power center, et cetera. We know where it's been historically, but when you have any decision that's made, and particularly any major decision, involves everybody. So you have women mixed with the men and so forth, and most of the ones making the judgment were men. So that's what, and I guess the distaff side, the female side, was never accorded the deference, in terms of making decisions and so forth. I think that that's changed markedly. I think it's changed tremendously, probably for the better, relative to that for the better. But there's a very tough issue, relative to life is life. So it's a tough issue, really. One of the things, and this is one time I didn't get my family all over me because I said if I were the one who was going to arbitrate abortion, yes or no, is it, sh- should it be allowed or should it not be allowed? I said, I'm completely neutral. Completely neutral. It's not a matter of both sides are right. I said, you're dealing with a woman's choice, absolutely and definitively, and yet you're still dealing with human life. So I said, I couldn't make that decision. If I were, quote, a juror or a judge, I would recuse myself because
I
I can't
think
make that.
I
I
think
can't
that's
make.
respectable. That goes back to being a gentleman.
No, I said you can't. To be, I mean, let's face it. You have to be honest with. I'm an opinion. I have opinions just like everybody else. Probably a lot of strong opinions. You can't impose.
Yeah.
You can't impose it on somebody else.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, well, I think that ends our rapid fire questions.
Oh, what a relief!
Yes, our pop culture ends right there. But I want to end with getting some life lessons from you. So I thought of some questions that, some answers that I would want to hear, and I think a lot of the audience can um, possibly relate to and learn from. Um, so yeah, so I feel like I just want to start because we talked about your childhood earlier. What were the most challenging parts of being a teen growing up?
Well, I was a fat kid and
Start off there.
uh, had a
Me
tough
too.
time. Had a tough time with that all through school, being picked on, and such as what we hear every day, and everyday occurrences and so forth, and consequently, obviously, being very defensive and not sure of yourself, and fortunately, at a certain point in my life, that became less pronounced and less important, and uh, fortunately, thank God, I evolved, into what I consider a more normal situation. But having lived through that, and I hear about the kids that, and also one of as to life lessons, you have to be an individual. Uh, you watch what goes on when people. I have to say that if you put human beings en masse, not necessarily huge en masse, when you get beyond one person and you get to two or three or four as time goes on, there's less and less ability to think for oneself. You get carried away. It's sort of the vigilante mentality. As soon as one person yells, and we're experiencing it today, what goes on in politics.
Yeah. I feel like getting bullied though when you're a teen definitely shapes you, like in a
Oh yeah,
good way.
I agree.
Like
I
getting
agree.
bullied when I was younger also, I was also a fat kid. Getting bullied was, I feel like, definitely like is part of your growth growing up. Like if you're not bullied, where do you learn? In
And
my opinion, like I'm being so for real.
well, I have to say, I have to say, everything in life of value is brought about and appreciated by its own opposite. So when you go through a bad experience, you learn from that, and you can develop into good experiences. But it without the everything to me is always, I said, the best of times and the worst of times.
Yeah. Okay. Well, after you were a teen, we went into work life after college. So what was what what's something you learned from having success and the workplace?
Well, it didn't start out with success. I mean, it wound up with my father and myself, the family business. But my father had three brothers, and there were multiple cousins and so forth. And it was a terrible situation. Number one, it's a rough bunch, a very rough bunch. And it was very difficult to figure out because even in those days, I was considered the outsider. And the bottom line is, I said, even in that business, I mean, there were instances that I recall where uh, that there was almost deliberate sabotage, so that what you're attempting to do is not going to be successful. And ultimately, for my father at his age, he split from one group of the family at one point, going back to the early 1960s, and then ultimately divorcing from everybody else other than me in the mid 70s. And it was tough. At the beginning, it was tough. But he said to me a couple of years later, we lived through some, like everybody else, it was tough times. And he said to me, "Are you sorry we did what we did?" I said, "I thank God for every day that it's just you and me." So we went through the life experiences as far as work was concerned is so certainly a life lesson. But
So what would be like one lesson you learned from that experience? If you could.
family is very important, and family can be a killer. I mean, in my later life, bless Babs, since the girls, it was tough at the beginning. You have blending two families and so forth.
Yeah.
And
I can
the
imagine.
and the yeah, yeah, but the best part was the amalgam of, as time went on, it amalgamated, it merged. I mean, truly merged, etc. And I never had that from a family situation before. It was always a very unpleasant family situation in in prior times. Very unpleasant. My father, bless his heart, was a they came. I mean, they all came from the Depression era and before, and he had to stop school in the eighth grade because, which is typical, because family needed support, and the kids would be working early on to try to help the collective family, and so it was a rough atmosphere. But he was, in all due respect, he was the only one with half a brain. Not only half a brain, he was the only one that had the ability to think. And
Yeah.
he was quite an unusual man coming from that background. That's why I appreciate him even more. Came from that background, tough background, different. So family evolved into
What
a
background is that?
positive.
You're talking
We
like
have,
immigrant
look,
background?
we have
Yeah.
10 grandchildren. We got five kids. You and your older sister Isabella are already young adults. And the bottom line is, you're going to have the typical difference of opinion, differences of opinion and so forth. But so much better now than it was then.
I'm glad.
Yes, people say family is very important. In the early, early on, before my later life, if you would, family had no positive connotation to me.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And fortunately, that's different now.
Yeah. It's kind of sad though, a little bit.
Hmm?
It's kind of sad a little bit though.
Sure, I mean, I talked to you about wasted time, but had my father told me a little bit before he passed away. He said the same thing that he wasted so many years. He said where we evolved, where we were at the time, at the end. He said we should have been here 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But you can't relive the past. Just
Yeah.
hopefully
Well, talking about the
hone the
past,
future. Hmm?
mentioning the past, do you have any regrets in life?
Oh, sure. Like everybody else. I'm not different than anybody else. Sure, you have regrets.
Is there a regret you want to share?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I think generally, yeah, you're going to live through times and you have regrets about certain things. But again, some of this is good, some of it is not. I tell you, there's a lot of the negatives from past. I just want to forget about. I mean, legitimately forget about it. It happened. You go on. You go on.
Yeah. So not necessarily regret it. It
Yeah, but
formed
that's why
you.
to recount specifics, you don't recount. I know them well. Thinking back, certain things are good memories and certain things are not good memories. I'd rather live with the good memories than the bad ones.
That's good actually. Why
Hey,
why
that's a
live with the
philosoph-
bad
that's a,
ones?
a philosophical view. It sounds
Yes.
simplistic, but I think it's the most important lesson I've learned.
I'm glad.
It's very helpful. I said, these questions are great questions. It goes, it goes. I think again, don't first go to law school, but you should become an analyst. There's no question about it.
An analyst or a therapist?
Therapist, no? To me,
And same thing,
it's
reporter,
synonymous. To me,
therapist,
it's
analyst,
uh, it's synonymous.
interviewer,
I may not
podcaster.
technically, I don't know if the if in the field it's considered differently, but to me, it's synonymous.
Got it.
Hmm.
So, what was the most important lesson your parents taught you or a parent taught you?
Well, I have to
I know we talked about your
relative to
father earlier.
learning, relative to learning, and I'm not going to be specific about it. Uh, Certain things I've learned that I don't want to be or do, and certain things that I do, and most of that aspect comes from my father. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Some parts of the past, certain things, nothing good came about it. So it came and it went. That's it.
So what advice could you give to your younger self? If your younger self was standing in front of us right now, what advice would you give him?
Probably in synopsis, I'll make it short and sweet. Everything that I've learned, life lessons, to use your term, life lessons, the 3, 4, 5 major life lessons, and so forth. Uh, I'm not that smart at an earlier age. My father had an expression that used to be, you get old too fast and wise too late. And so the bottom line is, and that's why we say youth is wasted on the young. Youth is wasted on the young. If youth had the experience and the wisdom that a person at an older age has, that would be very unfair. That's monopoly. It just doesn't exist. You got to
Yeah.
go through. You got to
Go
brew. You
go
have
through
to brew
life,
the coffee before you can drink the coffee.
period. Love that. Um, okay. So I have two more questions.
Okay.
What is the scariest thing that has ever happened to you, and how do you feel about it now?
Honestly, I'm stumped. I'm
You're
stumped.
stumped.
Stumped. Absolutely stumped.
Okay.
It's interesting. Interesting. I don't. I
We
don't
can
know.
move on from that question then. Okay. Well, there's one question that I want to start
I
asking.
have to.
Oh,
There's there may be something I can think about,
yeah.
etc. But I'd rather not talk about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for coming back to tell me that. So, okay. So, there's one thing that I want to start asking all of my guests. One question at the end of the podcast, which is if there's one piece of advice, I know we talked about a lot today, but if there's one that you could take from your whole life to give to the audience, what would it be? In like one or two sentences. And
Learn,
speak into the mic.
learn from your mistakes. To me, wisdom, not
Wait, start over.
intelligence.
Learn from the.
Intelligence is different than wisdom. Intelligence is native intelligence that you're capable of it. Whether you achieve the capabilities is different. But in wisdom, I'd have to say, try to analyze honestly the mistakes you've made in the past and don't repeat them. Literally, don't repeat them because I think, and as I get older, it keeps being reinforced because I see people making the same mistakes over and over and over again, and that's not a positive thing. You're wasting time. You're just truly wasting time. Life is too precious to waste time.
I agree. Well, with time by time, we are out of it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so
This
much.
was very this was I good experience. This is a very good experience. Thank you.
I'm glad. I'm excited that we got the chance to do it, and I learned a lot from this
When do you
episode.
think we'd be able to see this podcast in more or less final form? You have
Probably
an
2 weeks,
idea? Do you have an idea?
maybe like 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, I look forward to that.
can't wait.
I don't know after I see it whether I'm going to be whether I feel the same
You'll
way, but
love it. You'll love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
okay.
I love you so much, and I appreciate
You too.
you
I love you, man.
coming
I
on
love
the
you, young man. I love
podcast.
you.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Bye, everyone. See you next Sunday. And follow us along at No Filter Necessary Pod on Instagram, on TikTok, No Filter Necessary. And my socials are all Charles A. Malaga.
May I say? Please do so. He's a very interesting guy.
Thank you. You heard it here first. And if you like this podcast, let us know down below. Bye.